But let's switch gears and let's wrap with a little portal talk. And so here's the deal with this show and what we're going to do here over the next couple weeks, okay? Obviously, I just talked about it kind of as it pertains to, my conversation with Sean Farnham earlier in the day on Thursday. But portal content is the stuff that you guys and girls seem to want to listen to, okay? I did this a lot last year at this time. The numbers went up. The YouTube views went up. So this is stuff that you guys and girls are interested in, and I think this is the new world of college basketball where in April, in May, in June, we essentially have college basketball free agency where we are now looking through rosters and trying to figure out, okay, who's staying, who's going, and what other puzzle pieces fit. And so what I plan on doing here over the next couple weeks, I don't know if it's going to be every episode, every other episode, but today at the very least, I do want to talk portal because, again, it's the stuff that you guys and girls care about. And I just kind of want to get you caught up on probably about 3-4 storylines in the portal since we last spoke, okay? So the first topic, have you seen what Eric Musselman is doing at Arkansas, okay? So we've talked obviously a lot about Arkansas on this podcast over the last month and a half. When you go 17-4 in your final 21 games or whatever, when you sign 3 McDonald's All-Americans, when you make an Elite Eight, we are going to talk about you. But then when the rest of the college basketball world is just figuring out what they're doing in the portal here, a week, less than a week, 4 or 5 days after the season ended, and Arkansas is just blowing everybody out of the water in terms of what they're doing in the portal right now. And that's not to say that your school isn't going to get their guys and your school's going to get who they want. What I'm telling you right now, though, is Arkansas has a mile head start on everybody else in the portal. Incredibly, they have 4 players already committed in the portal. Trevon Brazile committed late last week. We talked about it a little bit on last Friday's show. And here is what has happened over the last couple days, okay? So on Wednesday, they got a commitment from a pair of twins from Rhode Island, 2 big kids, about 6'9", 6'10", Mikel and Makai Mitchell. And then on Thursday, they got a commitment from a 6'9" wing, Jalen Graham, who played at Arizona State and was a second-team All-Pac-12 honoree. And so I'm going to get into a couple of these guys, who they are, all that stuff, and then we'll get some other odds and ends from the portal. But in terms of what Arkansas is getting, let's start with the Mitchell twins, Mikel, Makai Mitchell. And first of all, I did an extensive kind of breakdown of them on YouTube. So if you go on YouTube, you can find that content right there. But in terms of what they're going to bring to Arkansas, I believe they are going to bring something that Arkansas desperately needed, and really the only major weakness that I saw at Arkansas this year, they simply didn't have a lot of rim protection, okay? And I think for 99% of the season, it wasn't exposed. But as you know, as you get deeper into the tournament, I always say, to win a national championship, you got to beat 6 different teams from 6 different parts of the country playing 6 different ways. And the one thing that they really had no answer for was when they played Duke in the Elite Eight, and Mark Williams just I don't want to say destroyed them. That's disrespectful to Arkansas. But Mark Williams was really, really, really good. 7'1", super long arms. And oh, by the way, he did that to everybody. I saw him play in Vegas against Gonzaga. He gave Drew Timme fits. He gave Chet Holmgren fits. So that kid was awesome, but it was clear that Arkansas going into the offseason was not going to let a team with a 7'1" monster down low give them problems in the 2023 NCAA tournament, and that's what I believe these Mitchell twins solve, okay? So in terms of what they did at their previous stop, Mikel, 11 points, 5 rebounds, 2.5 blocks per game at Rhode Island. Makai, 10 points, 7.5 boards per game. It's worth noting these guys started their careers at Maryland. So one, I don't know enough to know. I assume that Coach Muss isn't going to take them if they're not eligible to play. I actually know that for a fact. So maybe they're grad transfers, maybe they're whatever. But they are going to play, and they are going to solve that issue down low. Size, physicality, athleticism, rim protection, that is important, and that is what these guys bring. And what I would also say on top of that, they bring something else that is very important as it pertains to this particular Arkansas team. They are not guys that need plays run for them to score, okay? And I think this is an important part as we talk about the portal and as we wrap our heads around teams building more and more through the portal. I think we think always of the transfer portal as instant offense, star power, get the best players you possibly can. And one thing that I think Eric Musselman has done better than anybody that I've seen, Mark Adams from Texas Tech did an awesome job with this as well. Not going after the biggest names, but going after the names that fit a specific role and a specific part of being a team. And so when I look at Arkansas in 2022, 2023, I talked about it on last show. They have 3 McDonald's All-Americans coming in. Nick Smith is probably going to be a top 5 pick. I don't want to put any, burden on him, but I expect him to compete to be the leading scorer on that team. Anthony Black is a big guard, fellow McDonald's All-American that is going to have the ball in his hands. Jordan Walsh is really good as well. You simply don't need to bring in more guys that are going to score or need the ball or want the ball. And so by bringing in the Mitchell twins, I just like the fact that these guys are energy, hustle, defense, rebounding, rim protection. And yeah, they're going to get their points around the basket because when you're 6'10" and you get a bunch of offensive rebounds, you're going to be able to put it back in. So those two are the two that committed on Wednesday. And then on Thursday, we had another fun one as Jalen Graham, the 6'9" forward from Arizona State, committed to Arkansas. And he, to me, is a little bit more offensive, but he is kind of a nice puzzle piece, okay? He is a guy that, again, he's about 6'9". He's not a great shooter, but he's great about 10 to 15 feet in. He was a player that really blew up over the back end of the season. Arizona State was not very good, but late in the season, to his credit, the team started playing better, and it was basically when he started playing better. Late in the season, he scores double digits in 12 of 15 games, and so you look at why did Arizona State actually start to play decently? It was because this kid, Jalen Graham, played really, really, really well and really kind of took off. Like I said, he ended up earning second-team All-Pac-12 honors, and it was because that he was very good and very effective late in the season. 18 points versus Oregon, 19 points versus USC, one of the best defensive teams in college basketball. 16 points in a win over UCLA in triple overtime. So when you're putting up points against NCAA tournament caliber teams and, of course, some of the best defensive teams in college basketball, UCLA and USC, you know the guy can get buckets, and I think he will be a really good addition. A couple notes. One, like I said, I don't – people are asking me, well, how do all these puzzle pieces fit? I don't have a great answer, but you know what? This time last year when Arkansas brought in a bunch of pieces, Stanley Amude, Audis Toney, Chris Likes, I didn't know how those pieces fit at this time last year. And so the one thing that I'm done doing is questioning what Eric Musselman plans on doing with all these guys because it always seems to work out by the end of the year. It's worth noting. Of the last 4 NCAA tournaments played, Eric Musselman is coaching the second weekend in 3 of them. Back-to-back Elite Eights at Arkansas. 2018, he had Nevada in the Sweet 16. So, and by the way, 4 NCAA tournaments overall. And so I don't know how all the pieces fit, but I know he's going to figure it out, and I know he has a plan that maybe we can't see right now. The other big question with Arkansas, by the way, some of you have asked, I don't believe that this means that Jalen Williams is definitively gone, okay? And so for people wondering, Jalen Williams, the kid, the 6'9", 6'10", all-SEC forward, averaged 10 points, 9 boards per game. For some of you who aren't Arkansas fans, you know he's the kid that takes a lot of flops. I mean, this isn't the time or the place, or he takes charges, I guess. Some would say they were flops. But he, on Monday, declared for the NBA draft while keeping his options open. And what I would say is my understanding is just because Arkansas is taking a lot of big guys, it doesn't mean that Jalen Williams is officially going pro. Now, Jalen Williams is going to go through the process. He is going to see what his NBA stock is. And if his NBA stock is high enough, then he's probably going to go pro and probably should go pro. But I don't believe that because Arkansas has taken a bunch of big guys, that necessarily means that he is definitively going pro and not coming back. As of right now, there are 14 players on scholarship. Somebody is not going to come back, but there's a possibility that a guy at the end of the bench doesn't come back, that a freshman asks out of their scholarship. This is the new world that we live in. Guys are going to do what's best for them, and so the scholarship numbers will figure themselves out. I don't believe that this definitively means that Jalen Williams is leaving. I think he's going to test the process. I think he's going to see what works out best for him, and if it makes sense to come back to Arkansas, then he will. Really quickly, some other news and notes from across college basketball. Let's go to Kentucky, because while Arkansas is cleaning up, Kentucky's going to get their guys. Okay, so to be clear, Kentucky is going to get their guys. But something kind of weird happened, in my opinion, at Kentucky on Thursday morning when one of their backup freshmen, Bryce Hopkins, entered the transfer portal. This was not a surprising piece of news. It had been speculated for months that he was probably going to leave, and he was a guy that, to be blunt, did not have a huge role on this year's team. He definitely showed flashes in limited opportunities, but former 4-star, 6'6", 6'7", a guy that was really talented coming out of high school, 13 points against LSU, had a great game late in the season, and then we never really heard from him again. And what I would say in general about Bryce Hopkins, and really just the whole situation, is this. Obviously, because of my background, I covered Kentucky for a long time, specifically with Kentucky Sports Radio. I know the program well. I think I know the fan base well. And what I would say is, and we got a lot of Kentucky fans who are listening, so please feel free to tweet at me, chirp at me, whatever. I don't care. I was genuinely surprised by the reaction to the Bryce Hopkins stuff. Now, I know it's not a great time to be John Calipari. And I know John Calipari, there's a lot of questions and there's a lot of frustration with a lot of things that he has done. But I was surprised. There seemed to be a very vocal group of Kentucky fans that were very frustrated with the Bryce Hopkins situation at Kentucky. What I would say is, I'm not surprised. And it goes back to something. I don't know if you guys and girls remember me saying this, but in the middle of the season, Kentucky played at Kansas. It's obviously well known now because obviously Kansas won the national championship. And Kentucky just absolutely destroyed Kansas, okay? And Kentucky destroyed Kansas because all of the pieces that they had brought in at this time last year were really clicking at the highest level. Kellen Grady was playing great. Ty Washington was healthy at that point. Severe Wheeler looked good. Oscar Tshiebwe was obviously awesome. He's a player of the year a million times over. But during that game, I remember saying something, and I got a little pushback for it, but whatever. I looked at all those older players walking into a tough environment in Fog Allen Fieldhouse and walking out with a W with Ty Washington, who was a freshman. And I said something that I thought about when I saw the Bryce Hopkins news. I said, and you can find the tweet, if I was John Calipari, I'd be done recruiting anything other than this. I either want the older veteran college player via the transfer portal, or I want the top 10, top 15, 5-star definitive can't-miss recruit in high school. What I do not want is a fringe 5-star, a high 4-star, a low 4-star to come to Kentucky as a freshman. Because when you get the older players, this is what happens. They come in, they're appreciative of the opportunity. They're playing at the school that they probably dreamed of playing and never thought they'd have a chance, and they are so grateful to be there. Then you got the 5-star McDonald's All-American that can come in right away and be an absolute difference maker. What you don't want, though, is the high school player who isn't good enough to come in and play right away and really has no context for what's going on. Because if you played for 4 years at Davidson or, wherever, you come to Kentucky and you're incredibly grateful. And this isn't to say Bryce Hopkins isn't grateful, okay? By all accounts, he's a great kid, all that good stuff. But at the same time, these kids want to play right away, and I don't blame them. And so when you're bringing in a freshman that is not ready to contribute right away, that is what is always going to happen in this situation. It is always going to set up to a situation where you have a kid that in almost every single case, if he's not playing as a freshman, he's going to want to go somewhere else where he can play. And I saw my buddy Jack Pilgrim, maybe we'll get Jack on at some point this summer to talk about some of this stuff, but I saw Jack Pilgrim put out the list of schools that could be interested in Bryce Hopkins. It's Providence. It's Illinois. It's places that need a guy like him to come in and play right away. Kentucky is never going to be that school for low 5 stars and high 4 stars. And if they are, it's not going to work out very well, as we saw 2 years ago during COVID. And so I was genuinely surprised by the reaction. I thought, I'm not saying you're wrong, Kentucky fans, but I just thought we all kind of had an understanding. If a kid comes in as a freshman, if he's not good enough to go pro, and if he's not playing, it's going to be hard to keep him. Now, I wish he stayed. For the sake of Kentucky fans, I think he could be really good. But when you look at the Kentucky roster going into next year, depending on a lot of different things, he might still be buried on the bench, and it's hard to blame him for leaving. We just talked about Oscar Tshiebwe. There's a chance Oscar Tshiebwe could come back next year because of NIL and everything that's going on. Keon Brooks, I know he's testing the waters. He could come back. Jacob Toppin, he could come back. And so there was no clear path to playing time for Bryce Hopkins, just like there's going to be no clear path to playing time if they replace him with a freshman. I saw the kid Norchad Omir. I saw my buddy Matt Jones tweet out that this kid is a possible replacement. I don't think you need to fill the spot. If Oscar's coming back, if Jacob Toppin's coming back, if Keon Brooks is coming back, I don't think you need to fill a spot. I don't think you need a fourth power forward wing guy when you already have it. So what I would say is I was surprised by the reaction. I know a lot of people are frustrated with John Calipari, but this is the world you live in. You bring in a top 40, top 50 kid that's not ready to play right away. You got players in front of him. He's going to look for other options, and the fact that he's looking at Providence or Illinois leads me to believe if he was this, let me put it this way, and then we'll get to some other odds and ends. If he was that good, if he was that big of a difference maker, Gonzaga would have reached out, Duke would have reached out, North Carolina would have reached out. I think he's a good college player. I wish him the best. I don't think Kentucky fans should be losing sleep over it, though. That's my personal opinion. A couple other odds and ends from across the portal here over the last couple of days. One, Alabama, a fourth player entered the transfer portal. This was the first one that was really surprising, okay? And I haven't talked to Nate Oates. I actually think I saw him at the Final Four, like in the distance, but I was on the phone. He was on the phone, whatever. I haven't talked to Nate Oates, but it was clear after the season he was very unhappy with some things, and I don't blame him. I do not blame him. If you listen to his press conference after they lost in the NCAA tournament, he referenced the fact that they had some shoot-around prior to the game, the day before the game, and the only player that showed up was Javon Quinterly. And so you start to wonder why the team struggled. It seemed like they had maybe some guys in the program that, I don't know, weren't the right fit. I'm not going to speculate. I'm not going to judge, but it was clear that he was unhappy with them. I bring it up to say, since the season ended, Alabama has lost 4 players to the transfer portal. 3 were absolutely expected. Jashawn Holt, Keon Ambrose Hilton, and Alex Tishu, I think is how you say his name. None of them really played. They were all end-of-the-bench players. Jashawn Holt was actually posting one game. He was suspended. He was posting on TikTok. And so I get the sense that Nate Oates was not very upset with the 3 of them leaving. Juwan Gary, though, was an interesting one because Juwan Gary, from everything I saw, I thought he played really, really, really hard. Now, I could be wrong, Alabama fans, and I haven't talked to Nate Oates about this, and I don't have all the answers. But this was a kid that early in the season played really well. I think he got hit in the face, something like that, and his play fell off. The Houston game, which was a really important game for Alabama's resume, 19 points, 4 rebounds. He was the guy down low that was absolutely banging. They played Davidson at one point. He had 15 points and 8 rebounds in that game, 19 points against Florida. So that was the one that I was genuinely surprised to see in the portal. Maybe Nate Oates had other plans. Maybe he had other plans. Maybe he just didn't think it was the right fit. This is the world that we live in. He's originally from South Carolina, so maybe he could go back to South Carolina. Maybe he'd go back to Clemson, whatever. Right now, there's no real reports. There's nothing like that. But I just bring it up to say that was a real shocker to me in terms of a kid that entered the portal that I wasn't expecting. I would have assumed that this was one of the guys that Nate Oates wanted to bring back, but apparently he's on his way. A couple other notes. First of all, I should mention, by the way, I have my ranking of the top 20 guys in the portal up at AaronTorresOnline.com. Maybe on Sunday or Monday, I'll do a segment on the best players available. I don't think this year's group, the front end, I don't think is as important as great as last year. Last year we had James Akinjo, we had Walker Kessler, we had Remy Martin, who obviously played a big role in the national championship game. But I bring it up to say there are some really good players. Aaron Torres Online, I have my ranking of the top 25 players in the portal right now. And a couple of notes on a couple of them. One, Courtney Ramey, really good guard from the University of Texas, okay? This year he kind of got lost in the numbers, a numbers crunch. But last year when Shaka Smart was still there, 12.5 points, 40% three-point shooting. And here's the other thing, about 3.5, 4 assists per game. So you talk about a veteran college guard. He will be a fifth-year senior next year. A veteran college guard who can handle the ball, can shoot, can play off the ball, can play on the ball. Now, he's not a point guard, but he can make plays. You put the ball in his hand, he can make plays. That is a kid, as soon as I saw he entered the portal, I said he is going to have some major interest, and he did. John Rothstein put it out early on Wednesday or Thursday, I guess it was. UConn's reached out. Kentucky has reached out. Gonzaga has reached out. A bunch of other schools. He, to me, instant impact guy. We talked about how, Eric Musselman, all these coaches are looking for pieces that fit. That's a guy you can put in your starting backcourt tomorrow, and he can get you 20 points if you need to. So he is hearing from everybody. I'm trying to think of the other kind of big names. Landers Nolly, who played the last 2 years at Memphis, really interesting story there. He began his career at Virginia Tech. Who was the head coach of Virginia Tech when he started there? Buzz Williams. Buzz Williams leaves. He stays for 1 year at Virginia Tech and then goes to Memphis. He played pretty well at Memphis. This year was the weird numbers thing at Memphis. I do think he was hurt a little bit by Amani Bates early, trying to figure out how he fit. Well, guess what? He played great at the end of the year. He is now in the portal. The buzz is, no pun intended, that he's going to follow Buzz Williams to Texas A&M. Visit set up there for next week, and we'll see what happens from there. Additionally, this is one to keep an eye on. Brandon Murray, really good player. We talked about LSU last week, did a separate segment on YouTube about LSU. There's some stuff going on there. Every single player from last year's team is in the portal except for the guys that declared for the draft. Brandon Murray, really talented player. He is down to 3 schools. What was it? It was Tennessee, Georgetown, and somebody else. I can't even remember. But he averaged 10.5 points per game last season at LSU, was an all-SEC freshman team. But he is down to 3 schools. I believe Illinois was the third one. My understanding is it's Georgetown or bust. The former LSU assistant coach, Kevin Nickelberry, is now at Georgetown. Brandon Murray is from Maryland. My understanding, we'll find out over the next couple of days if I'm right or not, is that this is kind of a formality. He's taken the other visits, but he will very likely end up at Georgetown.